Alright, so you might have seen the news. Dana White just announced the main event and the co-main event for UFC Qatar, which is going down in November 22nd.
And the main event will be the number 2 ranked lightweight contender, Arman Tsarukyan, taking on number 6 ranked Dan Hooker.
In the main event, it is none other than Arman Tsarukyan taking on Dan Hooker. First of all, that will be a tremendous fight. Dan Hooker is absolutely flying right now. He's in tremendous form, but he hasn't fought since August 2024. Arman Tsarukyan, as we know, is ranked number 2 in the lightweight division. And the big question was he going to be the guy to actually face Ilia Topuria? Was Ilia Topuria going to be ducking him, according to Arman?
Ilia, stop running, Ilia. Stop running, Ilia.
I'm a big fan of Ilia Topuria. I would never say that he's ducking anybody. The man's probably the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in all of the sport right now. And that's a fact. Argue with me if you want in the comment section. However, Arman Tsarukyan, after pulling out against Islam Makhachev, kind of got sidelined. Now, he did weigh in as the backup fighter, and that got him some good graces. But, of course, he's now going to fight. Now, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, you could argue that this is a striker versus grappler kind of scenario. Of course, Dan Hooker, being the striker that he is, being the tall, lanky kickboxer, training out of City Kickboxing, who's on tremendous form right now, even though he hasn't fought in what will be about 17 months by the time he fights. He's been out with an injury, but he was on a 3-fight win streak. He last beat Mateusz Gamrot via split decision. Before that, he beat Jalen Turner by split decision, who Jalen Turner, even though he's retired, was one of the best strikers in the lightweight division. 6'3", absolutely gigantic, and Dan Hooker beat him at his own game. And before that, he put a beat down on Claudio Puelles. Puelles kept rolling for the Imannares, kept going for the legs, kept rolling around on the floor, and got brutalized by Dan Hooker in the second round. He got stopped with a front kick to the body. But Arman Tsarukyan, we know what he can do. The man can do it all. Literally, he's a very, very well-rounded mixed martial arts, and he is in his absolute prime. He's only 28 years old with a professional record of 22 wins and 3 losses. Those 3 losses, one of them was to Mateusz Gamrot that Dan Hooker did beat, and of course he lost his UFC debut to Islam Makhachev that he took on short notice, and he still gave Islam a really good run for his money. Outside of those 2 losses, the man's been absolutely flying and finishing a lot of people. Finished Joel Alvarez, put a beat down on Joel Alvarez, who's doing tremendous things. I finished Beneil Dariush in a stunning combination. It was a knee to punches, a flying knee I think it was, and then some punches. Then he beat Charles Oliveira by split decision at UFC 300, and that should have been when he got to fight for the belt. But of course, as we know, he injured his back, he struggled to make weight. Whatever the case may be, he got sidelined for a bit. Well, he's coming back in Qatar, and he's the main event. This is going to be a really key fight. If Dan Hooker wins this one, we could have a new contender. If Arman Tsarukyan wins this, then of course the man is going to fight for the belt next. He's only got 3 losses on his record. 2 of them are in the UFC. One was to Mateusz Gamrot, but since then the man is on a 4-fight win streak, and he kind of is the next guy in line. But, of course, he's going to get through Dan Hooker, and that ain't going to be easy. This version of Dan Hooker, the version of Dan Hooker that is covered in tattoos from neck to toe, the version of Dan Hooker that's going through a midlife crisis and holding bloody scraps in his backyard.
Vamos. Fight.
Oh, I'm in it, boys. I'm in it, boys.
This man is a problem. He's a real fighter. He's tall. He's a problem for everyone. And the fact that he beat Mateusz Gamrot, a man that is a wrestler first, that will shoot takedowns, that loves a single leg, that does get a tremendous amount of control. The fact that he beat Mateusz Gamrot means that this is not a foregone conclusion, okay? Dan Hooker is a real dog in this one. But more importantly, this answers a lot of question in the lightweight division. We were all sitting around wondering, when is Ilia Topuria going to fight, and who is it going to be? And of course, there were 3 front runners. We know Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, and Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan's been out there. He's been calling him a duck. He's been doing the whole thing. He's been going after him. He's been talking shit. Ilia Topuria's refused to fight him, said that if they gave him a title fight, he would vacate the belt.
I'm the world champion. I'm never gonna give him a chance to fight for the title. I will be like, listen, if that's the case, take my belt.
I don't think that's because he's ducking him. I think it's because Ilia Topuria just enjoys winding the guy up and making him wait. But if he beats Dan Hooker, he's got to accept the fight. Simple as that. So this does answer some questions, or should I say, it eliminates one of the three. Because Ilia Topuria has to fight at some time, okay? He's the reigning champion. And if he doesn't fight, then he will get stripped. Of course, he vacated the featherweight belt. He's undefeated. He's probably the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in all of the sport right now. Come at me in the comment section if you want to, but that's just my personal opinion. The man's ridiculous. The knockout over Charles Oliveira, the grappling credentials that he has, the wrestling that he has, and of course the mindset, the confidence, the fact that he, what's the word that the kids use? Hold on, what did he do? He manifested all of this, okay? He does seem to do that, okay? Just like Conor McGregor, he calls his shots, he backs it up, he talks the talk, and he walks the goddamn walk. But he's got to fight someone. It ain't going to be Arman. Is it going to be Justin Gaethje? Or is it going to be Paddy Pimblett? Will Paddy Pimblett be fast-tracked after beating Michael Chandler, a man that has struggled to get wins in the UFC? Will he get fast-tracked to fight Ilia Topuria? Now, of course, we know they got in the cage after Ilia's last win over Charles Oliveira. They had the face-off, they had the square-up, they talked some shit, all the rest of it. Ilia Topuria has spoken very openly that he can't wait to get his hands on Paddy Pimblett because he wants to beat him up, and he wants to do it at the Bernabeu in Madrid.
All the fans around the world, I think that they want to see that fight. And at the same time, I have to be honest, I think it's one of the easiest fights that I could have in the lightweight division. Choose the way I want to finish.
Is that going to happen? I don't know, because you've still got Justin Gaethje out there as well. And Justin Gaethje has made it very, very clear that he wants a title fight. Well, it's a 50-50 now. Arman's out of the equation. It's either Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett. If I was a gambling man, I would say Ilia's going to end up fighting Justin Gaethje simply because of time served, simply because the man deserves it. He is the human highlight reel. Yes, he's had 2 title fights in the past, and a 3rd title fight is hard to come by, but the man's been there, done it, got it all. He's put on Fight of the Year contenders almost every single time he fights, and I think he fights for the belt next. But as I said, Dana White wasn't done announcing fights there. He also talked about Belal Muhammad taking on Ian Garry. Now, a lot of people like to rip on Ian Garry. Ian Garry, we'll call him just for short. Ian Garry, to be fair, the man is doing great things, right? He stepped up and took on Carlos Pratis. He stepped up on the scale and was the backup fighter in Montreal when Jack Della Maddalena took the belt off Belal Muhammad. He was there. He's doing everything he can to get the title fight, and now he's willing to fight once again against Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. Now, we talk about grappler versus striker in the main event. I mean, could you see an even bigger example of a grappler versus a striker than this one? Ian Garry, of course, he does have takedowns. He took down Michael Venom Page. He has them in his back pocket when he needs it, okay? But make no mistake, he ain't going to be trying to take down Belal Muhammad. That's just a fact. Will Belal Muhammad be able to take him down? That's the big question. Of course, against Jack Della Maddalena, he got a few takedowns, but he was beaten soundly, okay? And Jack kind of proved the blueprint for Ian Garry, okay? Look at the boxing that he had. Look at the takedown defense that he had. But on top of that, we're going to see Ian Garry on his bike moving a lot. He doesn't have the boxing that Jack Della Maddalena has. That's just a fact. In fact, no one does. Not many people do. Maybe Ilia does. Ilia and Jack, they're probably the best 2 boxers in the UFC right now. But Ian Garry likes to move, and he will be on his bike. Look at the fight that he had against Jeff Neal. The crowd were booing their heads off, but Ian Garry didn't care. He stuck to the game plan, and he got the job done. He got the victory, and he also got an opportunity to continue fighting in big fights, like against Michael Venom Page, where he did wrestle, and then he went up against Shavkat Rakhmonov in a #1 contender matchup, okay? He lost that fight. He went to a decision. He almost got a rear naked choke in the 5th round. So even though people like to talk, you've got to give the man his credit, okay? Simple as that. The man's doing great things. He's 16-1 overall. That one loss was a relatively close fight to Shavkat Rakhmonov. The man's the real deal. And Belal Muhammad, look at what he did to Leon Edwards. Of course, he has a history of going out there and beating these type of fighters. He does have the wrestling. He does have the cardio. He does have the pace. Does he still have the motivation and the will? He just lost his belt, and he probably isn't going to get a title fight anytime soon. The welterweight division is absolutely stacked. As I said, the Shavkat Rakhmonov out there, that man, has to get a title fight at some point. He won a number one contender matchup, but of course he did get injured. Of course, there's Sean Brady out there as well that just beat Leon Edwards, and he wants to fight Ian Garry, and he was kind of frustrated that he didn't get that matchup. I know he was talking to Paul Felder, and he was very open about it, and he was like, he's pissed off. He accepted the fight against Ian Garry, but Ian Garry apparently wouldn't accept that matchup, but he did accept it against Belal Muhammad. Of course, there's Leon Edwards out there. He's fighting Carlos Pratis. There's Kamaru Usman, who's still relevant in this division. He's ranked number 5, but of course, Ian Garry's number 6. And then Joaquin Buckley, number 7. The welterweight division is absolutely on fire right now. It's the best it's been for several years. So going back to Ian Garry and Belal Muhammad, it's a tough one for both men, right? Belal Muhammad losing the belt, does he still have the motivation? Does he want to become the champion again? Of course, the answer to those questions will probably be yes. And when you're fighting in a sport like MMA, if you don't show up prepared and you lose, you get your arse kicked. It's not like not being motivated in a game of football. You lose a game of football, no big deal. Your team lost, simple as that. You show up in an MMA fight and you don't prepare, you don't do the work, you get tired, you haven't got the takedown defense, you get mounted and someone's just raining down blows and elbows, they're going to beat the absolute crap out of you. You're going to be black and blue. It's going to take weeks to recover. You might end up in hospital. You might get knocked out unconscious in front of the entire goddamn world. So the motivation will always be there. But will it be enough to beat Ian Garry? That remains yet to be seen. And Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Listen, you got to lean towards Arman Tsarukyan. He's really good. And I lean towards Belal Muhammad against Ian Garry. If you look at the fight that he had against Leon Edwards, there's the blueprint there, but then he struggled against Jack de la Madeleine, so that could actually counteract what I just said. But even still, I'm leaning Belal and I'm leaning towards Arman Tsarukyan. Other notable fights that have been announced on the card: Jan Blachowicz, the former champion, Mr. Polish Power himself, taking on Bogdan Guskov. We've got Paulo Costa versus TBD. Paulo Costa, crazy guy on social media, last time out got a big win, seems to be back to his current form when he took out Roman Kopylov. That was a version of Paulo Costa that we saw in the early years of his UFC career. Then he kind of looked a little bit lackluster. Of course, didn't really show up against Israel Adesanya. Against Sean Strickland, he really didn't do enough. But against Roman Kopylov, he definitely showed up, and that was the Paulo Costa of old. So I look forward to seeing who Paulo Costa is going to be fighting. We've got a heavyweight bout on there as well. Sergey Spivak taking on Shamil Gaziev. Who else we got on there? Ismail Nurdiev. We got Jack Hermansson, first fight of the night, taking on Miktabek Oralbay. So they are bringing a solid fight card, and that is going down, as I said, November 22nd at the Al Bin Hamad Al Attiyah Arena in Al Rayyan, Qatar. Doha, we'll call it for short, November 22nd. I'll be there. I'll be calling the fight. I'm getting my air miles. I'm in Las Vegas as we speak. I'm going to Brazil next week. Then the week after, I'm going to Abu Dhabi. So I'm literally flying all over the world. And then a couple of weeks after Abu Dhabi, I'm going back over there for this one in Qatar. So brilliant fight card there announced in Qatar, but I'm in Las Vegas. UFC 320 goes down this week. And that's about it. Let me know what you think about that fight card in the comment section. Let me know who you think wins those fights. Will Arman Tsarukyan get the job done? And will he eventually fight Ilia Topuria for the title? Will Ian Garry beat Belal Muhammad and then get a title fight? Will he jump over Shavkat Rakhmonov, who beat him? You never know. Things like this happen in mixed martial arts, and if you sit around on the sidelines, if you're injured, whatever reason it is that you're on the sidelines, the sport continues to progress. It's no one's fault. It's just the nature of the beast. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about everything what I said in the comment section. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.